Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. And welcome to Stop Puppy Mills, Ending Sales in Local Pet Shops. My name is Jill Fritz. I'm the Michigan Senior State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. And I'll be presenting this evening along with Samuel Wilbur, who is an attorney and a member of Michigan Friends of Companion Animals. During the webinar tonight, we'll, if we can hold off our questions until the end of the webinar, you'll see on the right side of your screen there's a toolbar that you can type in questions into that question section or in the chat section, and we can take your questions at the end. Also during the webinar, we will have your microphones on your computers muted just to cut down on background noise during the webinar. But at the end, during the question phase, you'll see where you can raise your hand or just type in a question. If you raise your hand and you would like us, if you'd like to say something, we can unmute your microphone and you can just ask the question to us that way. Or again, just type the question into the question box. This webinar will be recorded and a link will be provided to participants later on, and so that you can download that the recorded webinar right from the website and watch it at your own convenience as well. We'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to provide for you an overview of the problems associated with selling pets in retail pet stores, and we'll provide a step-by-step instructions on how you can approach stores to transition to a humane model and pass this model ordinance. It's an ordinance that was approved by the Macomb County Commission by a resolution last month. Basically, it's a humane pet acquisition proposal with templates and a model ordinance that you can use to combat puppy mills and basically cut off the puppy mill pet store pipeline to your city. It would cover prohibiting the retail sale of cats and dogs, rabbits, ferrets, long-lived birds, and large reptiles. It would exclude or exempt nonprofit organizations and breeders who sell these animals directly to the public. The website that we've created, you can see the URL at the bottom of your screen there. It has all the tools that you need. It was created by a coalition called Michigan Friends of Companion Animals. There's a page dedicated to the Humane Pet Acquisition Proposal itself. There are templates for letters to the editor or op-eds that you can write. There are frequently asked questions, other tips on how to take action, and as I mentioned, there are links to these webinars. If you're not able to attend webinar or someone you know was not, they can just go in and watch the webinar there from that website. And then there's many, many more resources as well. The purpose of the ordinance itself is to protect animals, protect consumers, and encourage responsible pet adoption by families. Incidentally, in that top photo, it was by the Elkhart, Indiana zoning department, and it shows a breeder with nearly 200 adult dogs that had repeat violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act related to veterinary care. And this particular breeder that you see in this picture sold pets directly to the family puppy, which is Michigan's largest chain puppy retailer. So that's the puppy mill pet line that I'm talking about, where breeders like this that you see in these pictures sell wholesale dogs to these retail pet stores. Just some of the
Thank you.
Hello?
Oh, thank you, Jill. I can go over the problems of pet store puppies.
Okay, so this is Akshay Verma is here with us. Akshay is going to take it from here. He is the founder of the Humane Society Veterinary Medical Association chapter at Michigan State University School of Veterinary Medicine. So Akshay, take it away.
Okay, so problem with pet store puppies, you can see that there are many problems with selling puppies to retail outlets. but there are also problems with the puppies themselves. So you can see the many health problems here. And so these include genetic defects from overbreeding as well as non-genetic disorders such as parvo and a myriad of other disorders. And so there's actually been 2 studies on this. One was done on breeding dogs specifically at puppy mills in applied animal behavior science, and basically found that breeding dogs in puppy mills were more likely to have both behavioral and health issues. And then there was another study done in the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association, which looked at behavioral problems between dogs from pet stores and dogs from non-commercial breeders. And basically they found that dogs from non-commercial breeders were less likely to have behavioral issues. So this slide lists some problems noted by customers from one of the family puppy locations in Michigan. And these items were reported to PetShopPuppies.org. And a few of these items are also contagious to humans. In 2013, 144 puppies or puppies shipped to family puppies had serious and costly medical conditions. And alien genetics can cost their owners hundreds or even thousands of dollars in veterinary care. So on the next slide, we're basically bringing the message that responsible breeders do not sell to pet stores because they would be concerned about where the animals are going, and they would not sell their animals to just anybody. So on this next slide, we have our records that link Michigan stores to puppy mills. And basically most pet stores order puppies from brokers or whole field dealers who work with various breeders, typically puppy mills. And these puppies are shipped through the broker to the pet stores where families unknowingly purchase pets with illnesses or genetic defects. Most states require certificates of veterinary inspection reports for canines imported into the state, which require certain vaccinations and a wellness check by an accredited vet. And these CVIs are public record. Puppy Mill Awareness of Southeast Michigan, a local animal welfare organization, has identified 31 puppy retailers acquiring dogs from commercial breeders out of state. 15 of these stores are still actively selling puppies. And most families would never purchase directly from these breeding facilities. The standards are far below what almost any person would consider acceptable. It's just that they don't know because they're buying it from the store. And so that's sort of what we're trying to do with this Humane Pet Acquisition Ordinance, is make sure that people acquiring animals acquire animals from either a rescue, shelter, or the breeder directly, so they know where the animal is coming from. And so even the smaller kennels, it's not just the large kennels, were cited for dangerous enclosures, debris, lack of veterinary care. So on the next slide, we talk about problems with pet store kittens. It's very similar to the story with puppy mills, except catteries don't necessarily require as much space, and bad breeders will keep cats in sheds, basements, or in a room where they may go unnoticed by inspectors. And in terms of the conditions, they receive minimal veterinary care, quality food, housing, or socialization. Those are pretty similar to puppy mills. So on the next slide, we talk about the problems with pet store rabbits. The good news is large chains like Petco and PetSmart already ended rabbit retail sales. However, Pet Supplies Plus, which is a large store chain in Michigan, it still sells rabbits, and the store is located in Macomb County, where the commissioners passed the ordinance, or passed a resolution to support the ordinance, rather. I'll get into that in a minute. That store imports rabbits from a USDA licensed broker located in California. So commercial rabbitries are similar to puppy mills, where rabbits are mass produced with minimum shelter, exercise, or veterinary care. Baby rabbits are bought annually as Easter gifts and often end up unwanted within weeks or months after the novelty is worn off. The majority of these rabbits are actually abandoned outdoors, and others will be brought to animal shelters where they may be euthanized because there aren't enough homes. And these rabbits, don't know how to survive outdoors, so the ones released outdoors will not survive. So according to the Michigan Department of Agriculture's Animal Shelter Activity Report, 900 rabbits were surrendered to Michigan shelters, and 300 were not adopted. And that does not include the ones that were released. Okay, so on the next slide, we talk about ferrets. So we have two good rescues in Michigan called the Motor City Ferret Rescue Facility, where families can adopt ferrets and learn how to properly care for them. The other one is West Michigan Ferret Connection in Grand Rapids. And ferrets are bred in large warehouses and often grouped in small cages with dangerous metal wire floors and are deprived of an opportunity to engage in natural behavior such as burrowing or hiding. While PetSmart has discontinued the sales of ferrets, Petco continues to sell them. They usually display 4 to 9 ferrets at the cost of $149 each. And the ferrets are supplied by Marshall Farms and transported from New York. And there are only 2 primary ferret wholesalers in the U.S. that can legally sell to pet stores, and that is Triple F Farms Incorporated in Pennsylvania, and then Marshall Farms, as I previously mentioned, from New York. And then Marshall Farms ferret inventory reached over 31,000 in May 2014 and up to 50,000 in 2011. And it was cited for violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act related to veterinary care, sanitation, and conditions of the facilities. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about problems with long-lived birds. So this includes cockatoos, macaws, and Amazons, and we have some other birds listed on the slide. Most stores sell only smaller birds. We define long-lived birds as birds that exceed 25 years in life expectancy, and there are state or federal regulations for the breeding or selling of long-lived birds. And there is an overpopulation due to impulse purchasing without any prior education. Some of these birds can live up to 100 years, often outliving the people who care for them. And avian bird rescues and sanctuaries report that there is a parrot crisis. According to Feathered Friends of Michigan, an astounding 75% of parrots living in captivity in the U.S. are living in less than suitable conditions. Consumers are not educated and purchase long-lived birds on impulse. They are misled into believing that parrots are easily kept as pets. These birds quickly become unwanted and moved to inadequate environment like the basement or garage. The average parrot will have between 5 to 10 homes in the first 7 years of his or her life. And there are 38 Michigan bird rescues listed at bird.rescueshelter.com/Michigan. That's bird.rescueshelter.com/Michigan. So next, I'm talking about the problems with large reptiles. So we define large reptiles above, and so this includes monitor lizards, alligators, pythons, boa constrictors, venomous reptiles, constrictor snakes that grow to more than 72 inches long. That's 6 feet. And so most cities, townships, and villages in southeast Michigan already restrict the possession of dangerous, wild, or exotic animals for public safety. This ordinance ensures that retailers are not selling animals that are already prohibited, because that's what happens sometimes where a pet store may sell animals that are actually prohibited to have in the city where they are located. So dangerous animals cause law enforcement challenges during rescues or removals and can put families and neighbors at risk. The largest Nile monitors can reach 8 feet. Monitors have well-developed claws and powerful jaws that can cause serious injuries. Constrictor snakes such as boas, pythons, and anacondas can be larger than 8 feet long and are capable of killing a person. There is an alligator rescue called Critchlow Alligator Sanctuary in Michigan, in Athens, Michigan. And so if you ever are contacted about anyone who needs to place an alligator, that does happen sometimes, you can direct them towards that sanctuary. So cooperation is better than legislation. Not all pet store owners are bad, and And not all pet stores are bad. A lot of them, like Petco and PetSmart, do offer adoptions for shelter animals. And so in 2015, two former puppy outlets here, Gibraltar Trade Center in Mount Clemens and Greenwood Pets and Plant in Warren, both agreed just recently to switch to adoptions. And Greenwood has red ribbon ceremony last week, and Gibraltar's having it this weekend. And so Greenwood was previously shut down by the city of Warren and cost the city $20,000 to seize nearly 200 animals. And so the previous owner had been arrested, and now there's a new owner who is holding adoption of vets. And so in Gibraltar Trade Center, as I mentioned, they're showing animals from Macomb County Animal Control. So, but then we sometimes hear, but there are no puppy selling stores in my community. So that's actually a good, if you have no puppy selling stores in the community, it's a good time to try to get an ordinance passed with your city council, because it's not inhibiting anybody who's already doing business. And while box puppy stores are becoming a thing of the past, puppy retailers are finding new ways to mislead families. They're online retailers, as well as there are new retailers posing as upscale pet boutiques offering tiny or quote-unquote teacup dogs, which may be underage and not tiny at all when full grown. There is also the selling of quote-unquote high-end designer dogs, which are actually mixed breeds through boutiques and grooming salons. And so it's not always a store that you would expect to find puppies. It could just also be a dog groomer that sells puppies on the side. So the pet retail ordinances, each jurisdiction is unique, so you have to sort of tailor it to what your community, what fits with your community's existing codes, because you don't want it to conflict with the existing codes. And so the ordinance that we have, it includes several sections. We have a finding section, which includes statistics and customers, so shelter statistics, as well as customers who have purchased ill animals, and it shows how the ordinance will fix those problems. That's the definition of terms. So you have to define what a pet store is, because you don't want to ban PetSmart from holding adoption events, and you don't want to not allow rescues in the city where you're trying to pass an ordinance. And so then there's also a prohibited section. And so ideally the best is a full ban on retail sales that only allows people to either go to shelter or adopt or buy directly from a breeder. And so in 2009, South Lake Tahoe, California was the first city to implement an ordinance like this. And it could also be standards-based. So if you're not getting a lot of traction with the ban from retail sales, then you can do standards-based. And so you could say, for example, you could say on the types of USDA licensed breeders that pet stores are allowed to use. So that helps a little bit, but ideally it would be best for the consumer to see where these animals are bred. So then there's also a penalty section, which includes who will enforce the ordinance and what penalties are involved. And then there's a phase-in period to give existing stores time to find homes for their animals and close out contracts, such as those with the franchise. So the Michigan Model Ordinance, so we formed the Michigan Friends of Companion Animals Coalition, and this is supported by these 13 animal welfare groups. We also are open to businesses, and we've been in talks with doggy daycares and groomers. And so we'll cover step-by-step instructions for how we are implementing and will continue to implement the Michigan Ordinance. And if you're listening from out of state, you can learn from our example. So our prohibited section, as I said, it prohibits retail sales of dogs, cats, ferrets, rabbits, long-lived birds, or large reptiles. It also prohibits roadside, public right-of-the-way, and commercial parking lot sales. So, so there are no loopholes for flea markets and similar type of operations. And so, like I said, it's, the main goal here is any sort of ordinance you try to model, the main goal is try to get people to see where their animals are from. And then also, our ordinance includes a requirement for the certificate of origin, which is required for even the remaining animals, that include small birds and other reptiles. And so it basically lets consumers know where these animals are from. So here's a little diagram. It just shows which animals we are targeting for the retail ban and which animals are not. And if you need to show anybody in graphic form, you can use this slide. So exemptions, it doesn't apply to rescues, it doesn't apply to breeders selling directly to the public, and it doesn't apply to pet stores that have adoption events. Okay, well, now we're going to talk about why there ought to be a law, and I'm passing it on to Samuel Wolbert.
Thanks, Akshay and Jill. And before I get started, I just want to wish everyone a happy National Dog Day, since apparently today is National Dog Day. I will be discussing passing the Humane Pet Acquisition Ordinance. And I want everyone to know that there will also be an implementation guide posted on our MFCA website, which will include step-by-step instructions for passing this ordinance. The first step is to learn the process. Each jurisdiction is different, so you want to take the time to learn about the specifics in your community. An official or employee in your local government may be able to help you. Typically, for a city or county government, a bill is introduced to a council by a member of that council. These individuals are called council members or aldermen. In some cases, proposed ordinances will go to a small committee for review. Other times, the entire council may vote on it without a committee. Don't get frustrated or confused by the process. It may not go as smoothly and as fast as you would like. Proposed ordinances may be discussed at several meetings over a few months so that public comments may be heard. Sometimes amendments will be suggested or made, though these amendments will also need to be voted on before being inserted into the proposed legislation. After you've learned the process, the next step is to do your homework. Doing your homework to tailor the proposal for your city official could take some time and effort. Because of this, we developed another webinar that includes more details on how to gather the information you will need. You can register for these webinars in November, which are called Prohibiting Pet Retail Sales Building a Case. And these webinars will be hosted November 23rd, one at noon and one at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In doing your homework, you want to ask yourself a few questions. Who are the local stakeholders? These could be shelters and animal control officers. Are there any related city and county ordinances? Who is selling dogs, cats, rabbits, ferrets? Don't forget to check grooming salons and flea markets. You also want to know who is supplying the pet stores. We'll go into this in more depth during the Building Your Case webinar, where we will discuss how to find USDA inspection reports, inventory numbers, and photos. You also want to search online or request records from the local agencies for existing pet store complaints. Municipal shelter statistics showing intake adoption numbers and euthanasia rates are also available through the Michigan Department of Agriculture. You want to create a good list of alternate places to adopt animals in the area, including shelters and foster-based rescues. PetFinder.com is a great resource, as well as the Humane Society of the United States guide on how to buy a puppy. You'll also want to look into a Freedom of Information Act request. This can be simply an email or letter. In it, you'll include exactly what you're looking for in the time frame to avoid delay and cost. By law, the public agency has 5 days to respond. We'll also have a FOA example on our website. After you've done your homework, you'll want to build your case next. Again, we will cover the Building Your Case materials during that November 23rd webinar I just mentioned. If you can't make it that day, it will be recorded. When building your case, you will want to show why your community needs this ordinance and have specific information related to your city, county, or pet stores and shelters. Eventually, you will need to condense your findings to a 2 to 3 minute speech. You can watch some of the testimony provided to the Macomb County Commissioners this past spring on our website. Each animal is covered within 3-minute speeches. Also, a frequently asked questions document can be downloaded from the Michigan Friends of Companion Animals site It's currently tailored for Macomb County, but it can easily be updated for your community leaders and your county or city information. Step 4, work with the opposition. As Akshay mentioned, cooperation is better than legislation. And meeting directly with pet stores could save a lot of time and money. There are many common opposition arguments, some prepared by the pet industry and others come from the decision makers. For example, one argument, some pet stores do work with good local breeders. The fact is, responsible dog breeders belong to local breed clubs, which normally have a code of ethics that does not allow sales to pet stores. Good breeders have waiting lists and never a surplus of puppies. Responsible breeders take pride in their work and want to know where the puppies are being placed so they can rehome them if there are any problems. A second argument you might hear is, why don't you raise the standards of the breeders instead? The need to raise standards of care that govern commercial breeding operations is indisputable, and we fully support laws to impose higher care standards and more strictly regulate, monitor, and police high-volume breeders. But this is a long and difficult process to bring these types of bills into law. Attempts at the federal and state level to do this have so far been unsuccessful. Senator Bida here in Warren, Michigan, introduced a large-scale commercial breeder registration bill again for the 2015-2016 legislative session. A municipal ordinance that prohibits retail pet sales, an efficient and important step to take, and is more easily implemented. As pet stores are the primary sales outlet for substandard breeders, limiting the sales outlet will stop many. Finally, another argument you might hear is that we are business-friendly and do not want to shut down any businesses. We strongly support humanely ran pet stores. In 2014, the pet store industry was a $58 billion industry. Over $42 billion of that total was spent on pet food supplies, over-the-counter medicine, and services like grooming and boarding. There's only $2.19 billion spent on live animal purchases. So what I'm saying is that pet stores do not have to sell dogs and cats to be successful, and those that do are in the minority. Pet stores, both independently owned and chain stores, primarily earn profit through focusing their business model on the offering of pet services and products like food, toys, grooming, and boarding. In addition, the cost to the community is far greater than the profits collected from selling ill-bred puppies. Unsuspecting families are making spontaneous purchases of poorly bred animals, resulting in expensive veterinary bills. For example, the city of Warren just spent over $20,000 on animal impound and veterinary care for just one pet store seizure in 2013, which included over 200 animals. In working with the opposition, you might want to know the potential opposition groups. There are 4 opposition groups that we've identified. The first are pet stores. Pet shops have attended city council meetings claiming they work with reputable breeders and are trying to improve the industry. The Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council, or PJAC, is a trade association that covers all things to do with the commercial sale of pets. The Hunt Corporation is the nation's largest puppy broker and developed talking points for the pet stores. And finally, the Missouri Breeder Association has been actively opposing Cook County retail ban ordinances. Step 5. Now that you know your opposition groups, you'll want to get community support. And I will pause for a second. It looks like we're having a little trouble changing the slide there.
Oh, you should, it's up on step 5.
Okay, well, it looks like my computer is having a little trouble. So I'll keep going. Step 5 is to get community support. Supporting a local ordinance means doing things like stakeholder outreach. Stakeholders, once again, are the local shelters, law enforcement, and animal rescue organizations. You also want to get together a diverse coalition, which will show your elected officials that a significant portion of the community supports your efforts. We've included a list on the right of your screen. Examples of people who you want involved in your project at some point and who you may call upon to testify in support of your proposal includes a police chief, animal control officers, health department inspectors, and animal advocates. Gaining support of the county commissioners could help pass the ordinance in local communities. County commissioners can pass resolutions urging cities to pass the ordinance locally. Resolutions are usually one-page documents outlining the problems in the county and their formal signatures of support. Once again, we will cover this more in Building Your Case webinar in November. Supporting a local ordinance means also doing things like testifying at council meetings, contacting council members to express support for the ordinance, and informing others about the ordinance. Even in big cities, it can be common for very few people to get involved in local government, which means a small group of people are changing laws and policies. So getting active community support can make or break the legislation you are trying to pass. Step 6, you'll want to find a friend in office. Public officials tend to take their constituents' interests seriously, so try talking to your own council member or alderman first. As much as we'd like the people we vote for to agree with us, this may not always work. If your own council member isn't interested, don't despair. Try to find another official with an interest in animal issues and pitch your idea to them. Often your local animal control bureau or nonprofit Humane Society can point you towards a sympathetic decision maker. They may have been working with the council on other issues for years. After discussing the idea with some decision makers, follow up with a formal letter with what exactly you wish to accomplish and the problems you wish to fix. This is step 7, introducing the proposal. A cover letter can be initially sent to the mayor, city council person, city attorney, or a planning director. You want to include details specific to the city or nearby cities, and make sure to have the ask. Ask your mayor for a study group or meeting with the city attorney to review an example ordinance for consideration. As a pro tip, deliver the cover letter in person and ask for a meeting. Often they are available and have an open door policy. Make sure to bring your backup documents. After you've introduced the proposal, the next step is to go public. But use caution. If you have found a friendly council member who is guiding you through the process and socializing the ordinance to win votes, you should consult them on the best approach for going public. Remember, local officials read local papers, so you'll want to schedule a meeting with the editor or editorial board of your local paper to ask them to support your proposal. Contact other media outlets as well, including television and radio, to let them know about your efforts. Writing letters to the editor of your local paper are very beneficial, but remember to state your case concisely, as most papers prefer letters of 100 to 250 words. And we'll also include sample letters on our supporting documents on our MFCA website. You may also want to issue a press release if you feel that you need to gain more public support before a vote, or to attend a committee meeting where the issues are debated. You can write your own press release and include your own quotes from stakeholders. And once again, we'll include an example press release on our website. The next step is to testify. If your council calls a public meeting to discuss your proposal, you should testify and get members of your coalition to testify with you. Plan ahead of time to make sure that everyone doesn't speak on the exact same point. This is a common problem at public hearings, and it's very important. For example, it may be wasteful and frustrating for legislators to have a dozen people talk about the abuse and neglect in puppy mills without anyone mentioning the taxpayer burden of animal care and control agencies that manage animal homeless issues day to day. It is also particularly helpful if you can get animal control officers to testify on behalf of their agencies. Enforcement professionals in uniform can add an additional air of importance and mainstream acceptance to an issue. It's especially important to have an individual who will be enforcing the ordinance, which will vary by community. We will provide more fact sheets and responses to opposition arguments in the Building Your Case webinar in November, which may be helpful to incorporate into your testimony. Be prepared to compromise if necessary. As easy and straightforward as this all sounds, things may not run so smoothly. Whether because of enforcement issues or strong opposition, sometimes you may have to compromise on your ordinance. This is okay though, but be prepared to compromise ahead of time and know what parts of your ordinance are most important and which ones can be set aside if necessary. Now you can win at the public hearings. You've completed a great accomplishment, so be proud of all your hard work. Unfortunately, passing an ordinance doesn't mean that it will be enacted as is, well enforced, or will remain a part of local law forever. Sometimes city or county attorneys will change the language of legislation that has been passed. In other cases, the law may be challenged in court and defeated. Whatever the situation, keep an eye out for related issues in your community after your ordinance is passed. So make sure to celebrate victory, but remain vigilant. You may not win your battle in the first time around, but don't give up. Maybe your council just wasn't ready for this particular issue at this time. However, now you have introduced them to the many ways in which puppy mills affect communities. So talk to those council members who voted against your bill and find out why. You can learn from this experience and try to pass a better bill in the future. Start planning your next victory. And as I mentioned, we'll have various resources available on our website, which is at the bottom of the page below at msca.yolasite.com. And now I will turn it over to Jill, who will find out if any of you guys have questions that we can be happy to answer.
Okay, so I just checking here. It doesn't look like we have any questions yet. Some good feedback on our audio, but otherwise, don't see any questions yet. As a reminder, on the right side of the screen, you can type in questions for us to read for you. And I went ahead and unmuted Pam Serdell's mic, who was the founder of the Michigan Friends of Companion Animals Coalition, so she can be available to answer any questions as well. In the meantime, just well, if you're thinking of a question, I wanted to point out our webinar schedule for the remainder of the year. We'll be having this webinar again in September, on September 24th at 12 noon and 6:30 p.m. Eastern again. It'll be basically this same webinar. And then on November 23rd, we will have the more detailed webinar on building a case that Samuel and Akshay mentioned, and give you a lot more details about how to research your issue, how to use the Freedom of Information Act, and really build up all of your research to support the need for a retail ordinance ban. So looking forward to doing that. And we have a question here that I am having trouble now accessing. I apologize for that. Is there any coordination of city or county groups by HSUS to build a team? If you mean coordination of advocacy groups to work on this particular issue, that's what Michigan Friends of Companion Animals is all about. As you saw in one of our first slides, several rescue groups and businesses are already joining on to Michigan Friends of Companion Animals to work on pitching their local city to adopt this ordinance. So that, and the HSUS is a part of that, of Michigan Friends of Companion Animals. So that's how we're team building to get this ordinance passed in local municipalities around the state. But Pam, if you want to add to that at all, to her question about will there be any coordination of city or county groups by HSUS to build a team, feel free to jump in.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question, because I know a lot of people would be interested in trying to pass it, but they wouldn't want to try to do all this on their own. There's, a lot of research involved, and these are new subjects for a lot of people. I had to learn about long-lived birds and rabbits and ferrets. The coalition is very active, in Macomb County, but the subject matter experts are from all over. We have a rabbit rescue that's been attending from Plymouth, and a ferret rescue that's been attending some of the county commissioner meetings all the way from Grand Rapids. So I'm not sure who asked the question, but we could probably arrange to have such subject matter experts in your city to speak about the rabbits and the ferrets and long-lived birds. We have fact sheets for all of those subjects. But yeah, building a coalition, it could be a small group of people. So if you were to be able to find a rescue group already in your city, that's a good place to start. They probably know some public officials. They can get you connected. So yeah, we would definitely be able to advise anyone that wanted to start a small group in their city, or we would try to come to your city or town.
And then we have another question. How many cities in the U.S. have puppy mill legislation already passed? I think you mean local have puppy pet store ordinances passed. And Pam, you might know that number right off the top of your head. I have a listing here, but I'm quickly trying to count it up. But you want to jump?
It keeps changing, but Sam probably knows too. I think it's 87 jurisdictions, and that's including Canada. It's like North America. It's 87 jurisdictions. So sometimes we just say over 80 because the number keeps changing.
Yes, you're right. The listing I have has 78 and then plus Canada, but I think there's a couple more that weren't counted on there. So yeah, as Pam said, about at least 80 local cities and municipalities have passed some kind of ordinance restricting or prohibiting the sale of puppies or pets in retail pet stores. So just checking to see if we have any. Okay, has there been any headway made with Petland in Novi? I know there have been some attempts to make the public aware of the source of their puppies. So I know Pam can answer that one.
Yes, that's Michigan's last big box store. We do have the family puppy, but they don't sell as much as Petland at this point. Yeah, we have one remaining big box store in the 12 Oaks Mall, and we thought that we would maybe start in Macomb County because we have a very supportive director of animal control who's really championed the resolution. And we thought if we set a really good example in Macomb County with the trade center, with the Greenwood conversion, that it would put pressure on Oakland County and Novi to make better decisions. But we do feel that lawsuits are an option as well for Petland. If you're really concerned about Petland, we are looking for people that bought sick dogs to join a lawsuit. We have one already on the lawsuit, so we will be collecting them over the next probably 6 months. And that might be the way to go because we've hit a dead end with the city council. We've been attending city council meetings, and they are not interested in our ordinance right now, but there is an election coming up, and we're supporting Gwen Markham to take over as mayor.
And then we just got another comment. The person that asked that question has some contacts with the developer of that project, so I will connect you both up to work on that further. So thank you for that. Just checking to see if we have any more questions. It doesn't look like it, but I'll just give you just a little more time if anyone else wants to add any questions. You can also contact us through the website, the Michigan Friends of Companion Animals website. If you think of any other questions, and that's mfca.yolasite.com, mfca.yolasite.com, and like I said, all kinds of fun materials in there to help you to do this in your local. And we just got another question asking, is Macomb County the leader in this for Michigan? And absolutely, yes. It started in Macomb County, and the Macomb County Board of Commissioners approved a resolution in support of the Humane Pet Acquisition Ordinance. And Pam, if you want to elaborate any more on that, if other counties, surrounding counties, have expressed interest yet in it?
We have started in Macomb County, and we have not really. It did just passed in May, so we really haven't had time to start attending other county commissioner meetings because we've had some interest in Macomb County from some of the cities. So we've been attending city council meetings and committee meetings. There is a lot of interest in Macomb County right now, so they are the leaders, and that's because of Jeff Randazzo of the Macomb County Animal Control. He is, like I said before, the champion of this ordinance in Macomb County. It's going really well.
We just got another question. How about airing documentaries to reach a wide audience, like Blackfish on CNN? I'm sure you all remember what a tremendous impact that had. Or PSAs, public service announcements nationwide. That's a wonderful idea. I know Pam's group, Puppy Mill Awareness of Southeast Michigan, has aired some puppy mill documentaries in more of an informal setting, but that's a wonderful idea to develop some public service announcements, or maybe arrange starting out with local cable access stations maybe to air some documentaries on the pet trade and on puppy mills. So that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for that. So I think that looks like that's all of our questions, but if you think of any more, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can also contact me at jfritz, JFRITZ, at humanesociety.org if you have any further questions about this. But visit our website for all kinds of materials and research to help you to get Humane Pet Acquisition Ordinance passed in your local community. So I think we'll wrap it up here unless anyone else has any more comments or questions. And thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us for our webinar. And please stay in touch, and we will talk to you all soon. Thanks again.
Thank you all. Have a great night.